Wow, everybody, I think we're just gonna go for it. The rain is really trying to destroy me, but I think it's a sign from the gods, right? Because it's like, oh, you had the gall to put together a whole series about rot, and now you're gonna get annoyed because I'm trying to rain on it. Like, I'm here to help you. I'm trying to accelerate the rot. So thank you, we get the message, thank you. Yes, clap for the rain gods. You don't need to impress us, we're so impressed. It's really beautiful to see you all. Thank you for coming to this graveyard and hanging out for a little while. I really appreciate it. I hope that was like the pre-show. That was your time with the spirits, so I hope that worked for everybody. Can people hear me and stuff? It's good levels? Yeah. Okay, amazing. Wait, was that a thumbs up or an up? Okay, raise the volume a little for the people in the back. Maybe? Okay. So welcome everybody to the third and final Rot Talks. This has really been a journey. Basically, I'm going to talk for a little while, and then a bunch of brilliant Rot thinkers are going to talk for a little while. So yes, this is a so-called experimental lecture series that is guided by metaphors of compost and decompositional strategy. So every month we look at a different material and its relationship to decay. April was plastics and metals, how or if they fall apart. In May, we got really into mushrooms. And then here we are thinking about dirt. So this is some very special and complicated dirt that we're on tonight. I want to start by acknowledging that we're gathered here on Lenape land, and we gather in gratitude to Lenape's stewardship of this land, knowledge of this land and its waterways. The theft of this island by the Dutch in 1626 was, as we know, the original genocidal real estate grift and the foundational harm to this land upon which this city is built. This church that we're gathered beside, St. Mark's Church, was built by Peter Stuyvesant, Director General of New Amsterdam, for his family, or rather the church is built upon the site of that church. Peter Stuyvesant, for whom many streets and high schools I wish I had gotten into were named for. Peter Stuyvesant, who expanded the number of enslaved Africans in the colony and stole their labor to build what would become New York City. So all of this is very present in this space, and the dirt holds these stories and histories. And I hope that the dirt can also provide a way to process these histories. I think there's no way of dealing with the harm done to this land and the creatures on it without committing to reparations for the stolen land and the stolen labor, and even beyond that, to rethinking our relationship to property, our relationship to labor and value and each other and the earth and the dirt. So let's just take a moment in gratitude for those who've cared for this land. So yes, dirt is intense, and it holds on to all the things that we want to bury. But it also teems with life. Like, dirt geeks are fond of saying that there's more living organisms in 1 teaspoon of soil than there are people on the earth. So the dirt is like getting busy healing and processing and digesting all of this past and devouring and feasting, and everybody eats. So this is like the model that it's possible that we can process and digest and heal together, and everybody gets to feast. So that's the dirt. That's the dirt on this dirt. That's where we are. That's the dirt. I started with the dirt. Yes. Let's hear it for the dirt. Oh my God, I'm like so worn out from brain anxiety. I have to take a seat. No, I'll just take a stand for something for this series. This series exists because in the early days of the pandemic, I developed a fixation on compost. I developed a dirt addiction. And so I wanted to welcome all these other thinkers to help me think it through. I was soothed in the early days of lockdown only by the knowledge that to fix anything, it needs to be ripped to shreds for anything new to grow and have sustenance. So I spent lockdown just like tearing up pieces of paper and cardboard from people's internet orders and then like forcing my roommates to put their food into this styrofoam beer cooler on the fire escape and mix it all together and try to make some delicious compost. And I would just be out there smelling the dirt, watching my one neighbor who ventured outside just walk up and down the block shouting at his seemingly unnamed dog. Dog! Dog! So it was a really intense spring. And then I was thinking about it and I was like, okay, but dog, as we all know, is just God backwards. And dirt, D-I-R-T, dirt, it shares its own beginning with God, right? Dios. It is divine. These things are in common. Dios is, the root means like from the sky, from above. Dirt is down below, right? So as above, so below. It's about being in touch with divinity. And the only happiness I found in this time was hanging out with the dirt and smelling it. And do you know what I discovered? There is a bacteria in compost that is more effective than antidepressants. I'm not making this up. They're doing research on it now. It's called vaccae, which actually shares a root with the word vaccine. It's a healing bacteria. And if you hang out with compost and you smell decay and you make peace with the process of decomposition, it really actually lifts your mood. Take it from me. So yeah, I think we're basically depressed because we don't spend enough time with the dirt. We spend too much time with the wrong kind of dirt, right? Trying to get dirt rich, staying dirt poor, and then we're like, all money is dirty money, and then we're just getting this dirty money from these dirty old men, these dirt bags who treat people like dirt, doing dirty work instead of dirty work. It's so depressing.
Times are hard, you're afraid to pay the fee, so you find yourself somebody who can do the job for free. When you need a bit of loving, 'cause your man is out of town, that's the time you get me running, and you know I'll be around. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. I don't wanna do your dirty work no more. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. Light the candle, put the lock upon the door. You have sent the maid home early like 1,000 times before. Like the castle in his corner in a medieval game, I foresee terrible trouble, and I stay here just the same. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. I don't wanna do your dirty work no more. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. no more. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah. I don't wanna do your dirty work no more. I'm a fool to do your dirty work, oh yeah.
You know that feeling where you think no one's gonna come to your party, and then a lot of people come to the party? I'm not gonna make you watch me hand out antidepressant doses to everybody, okay? But I think you all deserve some. So, you're welcome to dose yourself. The last thing we're gonna do before we jump into things is just like, let's take a breath. We're here. We're really here. You can come fetch a dirt dose, or you can just realize that you're on dirt right now. So let's like close our eyes for a second, be in our bodies. The ground is teeming with life and creatures. You are teeming with life and creatures. You are not just you. I love how people can see me, seeing them see me. Let's just close our eyes for a moment and enter the realm of smell. And if you have a dirt dose, see if it works. And otherwise, let's smell this air. Let it pass through you. If you want to get down and smell the dirt right here, by all means. If you want to find the dirt bucket and take your dose, by all means. Feel the air on your skin. Feel it pass through you. Feel it against your nostril hairs. How nice. It's tickling them. Feel that breeze that came by to say thank you for acknowledging me. You are mostly air. You are mostly that thing that you feel caressing you. You're caressing yourself. How nice. Feel the water that's falling. Taste the water in your own mouth. Notice any perspiration. Drool if you want to. Bring attention to the blood flowing. There are rivers flowing in you that are the same thing as the raindrops. What you're holding in your hands is many months of food scraps combined with books and paper, poems that I ripped up and layered in. Poems on pages are just pieces of trees with words on them. Amazing. Nitrogen, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. You're made of the same stuff as the antidepressant dirt dose. It's the same stuff. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And now I'm gonna introduce our first rot thinker. Feel free to continuously dose yourself throughout the evening. So I'm really excited by all these people tonight. I can't believe they agreed. We're going to hear first from Narendra Haynes. Oh, that's my dad who's going around dosing people. Yeah. Dr. Tatarsky, he's literally a professional, people. So for many years, Narendra worked on a vineyard in New Jersey, coaxing sweetness and intoxication out of that Jersey dirt. As an artist, he works in the mediums of painting, poetry, sculpture, installation, and all the places where these forms meet and change each other. This past year, Narendra hosted a series of talks on the beloved multi-hyphenate Milton Graves, whose spirit is very much here before he passed, artist, percussionist, researcher, tender of a vast garden in Queens where he spent most of his time listening to plants. He also developed Yara, a martial art based on the movements of the praying mantis. And Narendra told me that Graves would often pop into the Zoom discussions of his work to clarify that this martial art was not just for show, it was dangerous and it could kill. For the past year, Narendra has been building worlds out of salvaged styrofoam that mealworms then devour, leaving traces and pathways as they turn the foam into dirt. Narendra, too, like the praying mantis, like the mealworm, is a gentle yet fierce observer of life and most recently of how insects can show us the way. If you listen closely to the sounds they make as they munch, writing poems of decay into the waste we generate, it sounds just like rainfall. I'm so excited that Narendra has agreed to be here to tell us a little bit about his practice. Narendra Haynes.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, out there? Good, good. Okay. Hi, it's great to be here. Thank you so much, Alex, for that lovely introduction and for putting this really remarkable series of events together. I really feel like at home in this kind of like environment right here. And it feels like, there we go, that's better. It feels like a good thing and good people. So I'm very happy to be here. Really excited about the artists that will be presenting after me. And I look forward to what everyone will be showing today. But I'm just going to tell you a little bit about myself and my own work and the work that I'm showing today. So as Alex mentioned, I've basically formed this collaboration with another life form, which is the mealworm beetle. And the Latin name for it is Telebrio molitor. It's from the darkling beetle family. It starts off its life cycle as a mealworm, which is like a common pet feed, and then it matures into a rather plain black beetle. And as Alex mentioned, this rather humble creature has this really remarkable ability to eat and decompose styrofoam. So through this collaboration, once I discovered this a couple years ago, I basically made it the center of my practice. And through this collaboration, I've been making these time-based sculptures by decomposing styrofoam waste. And it's really quite a remarkable process to witness because they don't just eat the styrofoam. They sculpt it, they transform it, they construct it, and finally they inhabit it as well. And when you look today, you'll see they've carved this whole network of tunnels through the material that they move through and kind of live inside of, and it almost becomes this very weird intersection of like mealworm architecture or some kind of world building that they're kind of shaping through their activity. But as they kind of sculpt and construct this material, they're ultimately breaking it down, transforming it. I haven't been able to get a exact chemical analysis of the material, but it looks just like sand, and it's, according to the research I've read, completely harmless to re-enter the ecosystem. And I'm really kind of interested in this proposition for an artwork of basically the realization of the work to be kind of becoming this pile of dirt, right? And I feel like that asserts like a counter value within our I don't know, tech-driven, future fetish lifestyles that like the simple things are sometimes the most impressive. And Alex, I really loved your rant on dirt. I also wanted to share that the root of the word human is hummus, which also means of the earth. And I've been like on a mythology kick recently, so I've just been reading about all these origin myths where humanity is created from clay or earth or some kind of dirt material. So I think it's very important that we're remembering our roots today, and that we should always remember our roots in that way. Let's see. So anyways, they sculpt the material, they inhabit it, they turn it into dirt, and they also produce this really kind of incredible sound while they do it, which I hope we can hear today. I did run into a few hiccups getting here and didn't get set up as early as I want, so I feel like they're still settling in and haven't really gotten back to their full activity. But when they do, they produce this wonderful sound. It's kind of like rain, it's kind of like fire, it's almost a whispering. And I'm going to try to have a moment of collective listening at the end of my introduction, but we'll see if they're actually active enough to produce this sound. But anyways, I hope you can see there's a kind of poetry to this process. And for me, the crux of it is really this tension between the human and the non-human. And way too often, the human gets privileged at the expense of the non-human. The non-human being the biosphere as a whole, which, includes us. We're part of the biosphere, and we depend on it to sustain all life. Yet we've been just recklessly kind of inflicting this irreparable damage on it for our own comfort and convenience. So, and then I guess the fact, so for me, I guess the styrofoam and the fact that we kind of just pump this this really poisonous material into the ecosystem on like massive scales. 30%, more than 30% of landfills are filled with styrofoam, and it's estimated that it takes anywhere from 500 to 1 million years for it to decompose under normal circumstances, but the mealworms can do that job in a few months, which is, again, quite amazing. But then on the other hand, if we were to replace styrofoam, so I feel like styrofoam is kind of emblematic of the scale and scope of the abuse that we've been inflicting on the planet. And then the fact that if we were to replace, for example, styrofoam shipping material with cardboard, the added production steps, the extra weight, the shorter lifespan would actually end up producing a larger carbon footprint than styrofoam. I think that is indicative of just how kind of entangled we are in these kind of systems of abuse. So that's the tension of the work, and I try to focus that tension in each piece that I show through the particular collections of styrofoam that I use. So the piece I'm showing today is called Icebox, and it's made from a collection of styrofoam I gathered from the School of Medicine at the University of Pennsylvania. And of course, Penn Medicine is this huge research institution that includes like a hospital. And during this time of a global pandemic, we've all kind of had to think about our relationship to the medical industry very closely. And I've just been thinking a lot about the cost of this research and the cost of medical progress. Namely all of the testing and experimentation and abuse of non-human animals to develop these medicines, which could be life-saving medicines. So it's a tension because, of course, no one would say, myself included, that we shouldn't do everything in our power to help our fellow humans to live well and long and prosper. But at the same time, we depend on this abuse to do that. So that's kind of like this, and then that kind of creates this really sense of ambivalence for me surrounding I guess, my own humanity. Let's see. Okay, so I said the title of the work is Icebox, and I've been thinking about this space of like a cooler or an icebox, both as a physical space, but also as a mental space, or an emotional space, or a feeling. And for me, the feeling of the icebox is of coldness, of apathy, of indifference, maybe sterility. And I feel like this is the kind of the attitude that is indicative of also the subject of experimentation, whose feelings are never taken into consideration. So, of course, the goal is to thaw this out. If I were to say, maybe state it poetically, it's the icebox of the frozen heart, which is maybe appropriate for all the coolers and test tube holders that I forgot to mention that part, that it's made from coolers and test tubes that were actually used in the School of Medicine at Penn. So yeah, I'm hoping the mealworm today, and what it does for me every day is kind of encourages a kind of humility, to see this very humble creature, as Alex put it, kind of probably better than I would be able to. I don't remember how you put it, but clean up this waste that we're poisoning the atmosphere and the ecosystem with, and to just kind of marvel at that process and appreciate what they can do. So I guess hopefully it's a moment to think a little bit differently, maybe feel the pull of another way of being and relating, and ultimately to hear the whisper of the mealworm, which is, on that note, what I would like to share now by putting the microphone in the box, but I really don't know if it's going to be loud enough to communicate. But we'll do it anyway, and I kind of had this idea for a practice, if anyone wants to do it during this moment of listening. And if you would like to join this practice, you can close your eyes and maybe think of a rat or a spider or a worm or a slug or any kind of critter or creature that you find yourself repulsed by or you find intolerable in some way. And I would like you to close your eyes and picture that creature in your head, and just in all the detail you can imagine it, and just think about what that creature's life and the contributions that it makes to whatever world it's a part of, and maybe ask yourself if you can make peace with that creature. So with that said, we'll have a moment of listening. Hopefully this works. Well, I'm afraid we couldn't hear that as well as I hoped, but thank you for sharing that moment anyway. And thank you for coming out again, and I will pass it back to Alex. If you want to learn more about what I do, you can check out my Instagram at Narenderthal, Narenderthal. Thank you.
They sound amazing. They sound so good. Okay, so here's how the evening's gonna go. We're gonna hear from one amazing artist researcher. We're gonna take a little eating and exploring break to go listen to mealworms, have some feasting ourselves, examine this raw release over here. And then we're gonna hear from Precious and then Poncili Creacion. So it's gonna be juicy, juicy. And now I'm going to introduce to you Candace Thompson. Yes, let's clap. So I met Candace at an edible food forest that she tends to that exists secretly inside the East River Park, and all are welcome to come and eat the East River Park and feast on this lush patch. It's ostensibly for native plants, but there is a peach tree growing there from a pit that someone tossed many years ago, and no one has the heart to cut it down because everybody likes peaches. So these boundaries between native and invasive are troubled. And Candace, like Narendra, thinks of ways to collaborate with these non-human friends so that everybody gets their fill. During lockdown, there was no one to tend to the park, so it grew wild and woolly. It was too thick to walk through. It was an impenetrable tangle. And so Candace, battled city bureaucracy to bring in a herd of goats to the East River Park because they would eat all the delicious things, and then what would be left would be more delicious things for us to eat. It was like everybody eats. There's enough to go around. So Candace has been teaching me and many others about the weeds that grow right here in the city, the so-called weeds that are extremely delicious. Wow, someone's eating a peach right now. I have the best view in the house. Okay, go on, continue. Candace moonlights as the roving dirt feast curb or collaborative urban resilience banquet, preparing meals for people from these foraged foods and researching the harmful things that dirt holds on to and how we can process rather than ignore them, like physically process them. Candace's research for me reveals the earth in all its writhing complexity and also in its deliciousness. I'm so happy she could be here today. Candace Thompson.
Hi, everybody. How's it going? Okay, now is when you adapt to how the microphone works. Can you hear me? Do I need to talk louder? Thank you so much. A little louder. Okay, good. I can do that. I'm a loud person. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you to Alex. I'm really excited to be here. Like Alex said, my name is Candace. My 30 trillion human cells, my 39 trillion non-human cells, accept all pronouns, at least in this moment. I have to do a little setup. The thing I'm doing tonight is called a lexicon of intoxication. A is for arsenic. I study urban soils and the heavy metals that are contained therein. Right now, I'm able to study 3 different heavy metals, arsenic being one of them. Arsenic is in our soil due to metal smelting, pharmaceuticals, pressure-treated lumber, dyestuffs, petroleum, coal, waste incineration, and herbicides, pesticides, and rodenticides. It also occurs naturally, but the anthropogenic or human-made forms, that is why they are there. It's soluble in water, which is why one of your greatest vectors for arsenic in your commercial food stream is rice, because rice grows in wet rice paddies. A is also for apple. You remember I told you that it was very common in herbicides and insecticides. Since 1898, we started using something called lead arsenate to treat all of our apple orchards, vineyards, gardens, lawns, because it was one of the few insecticides we could find that was actually relatively undamaging that would fight some of our worst pests, okay? In 1919, they started figuring out that it was actually attaching to the food, and they were like, oh God, we gotta come up with something else. They didn't really come up with something better until 1947 when they developed DDT. We all know how that worked out. It was finally banned from agricultural use in 1998. This is why, when you go to a cool old apple orchard and you go morel hunting, because it is a place where they are notorious to grow, They might be good eating, but they might not be real great eating. B is for brownfield. I manage Stuyvesant Cove Park. I don't call it that for obvious reasons. I try to call it Sty Cove Park. It is a 2-acre native food forest just north of East River Park, between 18th and 23rd Street on the East River. It is a park built on a former brownfield. It used to store gas and coal. There are about 450,000 brownfields in the United States, give or take. Anything can be a brownfield, really. A former dry cleaners can be a brownfield. A former car shop can be a brownfield. Anywhere where there was tanneries, coal and gas storage, dumps, manufacturing sites, and farms that have used too much insecticides and herbicides and insecticides. My park has been capped, right? So it's got concrete, and then it's got 3 feet of clean soil fill on top of it. This is a process. This is something we can do. Brownfields are not Superfund sites. Superfund sites are so bad that the government has to step in and do something. Whether they do or not remains to be seen. That's a brownfield. C is for cadmium. It's one of the other 3 heavy metals I study. One of the biggest reasons we have cadmium in our soil is because we incinerated our trash for so long. So all of that stuff that went up into the air has got to come back down. Kind of a bummer to find out. C is also for chocolate. Your greatest vector for cadmium in the commercial food supply is dark chocolate. I use EU standards to measure what is and isn't acceptable because the United States doesn't really have any. In the EU, the meter for what was acceptable used to be 0.85 milligrams per kilogram in dark chocolate, which is anything that has above 50% solids of cocoa, whatever. Now they've just lowered it to 0.7. So whenever I am looking at something that I might forage and try to serve to a group of people, I use these numbers, rice for arsenic, cadmium for chocolate, lead for leafy greens, because I figure if you're going to eat a meal with me and you eat chocolate at least once a year, I'm not your greatest problem. D is for Dow DuPont. So I'm from Eastern Kentucky. My dad lived in West Virginia for a good portion of my adolescence. I spent a lot of time swimming in the rivers of West Virginia. Union Carbide is a former petrochemical company that used to be in West Virginia. They contaminated all the rivers there. They went bankrupt. They were bought by Dow in 2001. Dow DuPont merged at some point, and then they immediately split off into 3 different entities, Dow Inc. or DuPont Inc. and Dow, and something called Chemours. Chemours at the moment is one of the arms of their organization that handles most of their chemical liability. My father moved from West Virginia, where I was getting all of that wonderful stuff into my body, to just north of Wilmington, where the Cape Fear River is, where DuPont has been dumping something called Gen X, which is not a Winona Ryder movie, into the Cape Fear River, which is now in everyone's drinking water and in their bodies. Isn't this really fun? Don't you love this? E is for environmental, as in the Environmental Protection Agency, the people who are supposed to protect us from stuff like this, including them and the CDC, the NIH, and the Agency for Toxic Substances Disease Registry. F is for funny. God, kill me. L is for lead. Lead is the 3rd heavy metal that I study. A lot of the lead in our soil is because of lead paint, leaded gasoline. I use leafy greens as my metric for lead, so that is 0.3 milligrams per kilogram if you're keeping score. L is also for liability. Alex, could I get your help? The curators of this evening have asked me to have you sign some liability waivers. I don't usually do this. I usually just kind of tell people, hey, you can eat this, you cannot eat this. But, let's be real about it. Here are the actual risks. If you choose to eat anything with me tonight, your greatest, most immediate risks would be an allergic reaction. If you are a person who is prone to, allergic reactions because of plants, maybe don't. If you are nursing or pregnant, maybe don't. If you have chronic health issues, maybe don't. Interestingly, like, think about all of these big organizations, Dow, DuPont, Exxon, BP, right? We can name them all. They're not making you sign no liability waivers. M is for mugwort. The beer I will be offering you this evening is made out of mugwort. I foraged it from my park. Like I told you, the soil there is clean. I have two different types this evening. One is actually like a summer kind of ale. It has got mugwort, pineapple weed, yarrow, and grapefruit, and then it was sweetened with, the fermentation was done with maple and brown sugar. The other one is a darker beer. It's mugwort, chaga mushrooms, yarrow, and a little bit of juniper. That one was pitched with molasses. What I really like about mugwort, Artemisia vulgaris, it's a very prevalent weed. You see it every day, I promise you. It is an amazing woman's herb. It is known to help you lucid dream. You can burn it like a smudge stick. It will clear the air. They've actually been finding that's actually true. It fights the microbes in the air. And I believe that it helps open our intuition. Do I think that it is a coincidence that this plant grows all around us in urban spaces where we have completely divorced ourselves from our relationship to the planet? No. Oh boy, this is when it gets really, 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 really real. Okay, so P is for PFAs or PFOs or PFOAs. Whoo, okay. These are known as forever chemicals. Why? Because they last forever. Let's see. They're really good at repelling water and oil. So they're used in textiles, carpeting, dry cleaning, cleaning products, paint, firefighting foams, food packaging. So anything where you need to keep like oil and water off of something you're about to eat, they use that. It's also used in cookware. One of the ones you know, polytetrafluoroethylene, is Teflon. Teflon and a lot of PFOs are now in all of our water, all of our rain, and I would be willing to bet if we could get a test, no one here doesn't have it in their blood. That was a double negative. In other words, all y'all got it in your blood. Then there's some other PCBs, polychlorinated biphenyls, okay? So DuPont has known since the 1950s that PFOs trickle up the food chain. Just like Monsanto knew for 40 years that PCBs were carcinogenic but didn't do anything about it. Just so you know, the reason why the Hudson River is a Superfund site is because General Electric dumped PCBs into it for 30 years. And then there's PAHs, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. So these are the leftovers from oil spills. You know, the giant burning eye of Sauron in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico right now, you can believe that that is dumping a bunch of PAHs into our food chain. Q is for what the fuck? No. What the fuck? Getting close. R is for Roundup. So I want to study Roundup. It's one of the things I would like to be able to test for. If anybody wants to give me an NEH grant, that'd be real swell. Roundup is really hard to test for, however, because it is proprietarily designed to break down very quickly to not be Roundup anymore. It breaks down into something called AMPA, which it messes with your nerves. If you didn't know, Monsanto has about 30,000 standing cases against them for non-Hodgkin's lymphoma attached to people who used Roundup regularly, which is why Monsanto no longer exists. It was bought by Bayer. Bayer, if you don't know, is one of 4 companies that own all of our seeds. They are also a major pharmaceutical company. They actually just in May tried to pay they wanted to be like, look, we don't want to settle all of these like lawsuits. Can we just pay $2 billion to be like, it wasn't us and we want to move on? And a California judge was like, no, you cannot do that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens now, whether or not it's going to be worth it to them to keep selling Roundup or to have to pay off all of these legal fees. S is for sacrifice zone. These are spaces that have been decided, or by someone, for LULUs. So that is locally unwanted land use for manufacture, industry, etc. Places like Minden, West Virginia, Cancer Alley, Louisiana, Greenpoint, the South Bronx, Bridgeton, Missouri, Pensacola, Florida, the Navajo Nation, and your body. T is for trust. U is for underregulated. Since 2016, the EPA has rolled back 100 of the regulations that would have helped us to do this stuff. As you can see, it wasn't that great in the first place, so now what do we do? V is for vote? No. Veracity? Voice? Vengeance? Fuck it. V is for vegan cheese. I got some vegan cheese here for y'all if you want it. It's made out of ginkgos and cashews. The ginkgos are from Governor's Island when I was doing a residency there. I have the toxicity for you. It had 0.1 milligrams per kilogram arsenic, that's less than rice, no cadmium and no lead. I mix my vegan cheese with ginkgos with cashews that I buy from the store. I've tested the cashews before. I didn't test this particular batch, but the last time I did, it had 0 arsenic, 0 cadmium, but it had 0.1 milligrams per kilogram lead, still below the leafy green level. But I don't know what you want me to tell you about purity. You can eat it, you can not eat it. I got 3 different kinds. They're all the same cheese, but one's got some wild bergamot on top, one's got some sumac on top, and one's got some field garlic oil. So think about like that, like ramp oil. It's just that it's not an endangered plant, it's a weedy plant. W is for what do we do? Who's going to clean all this up? Will it work? Why is this my future? Whatever. It's also for crackers. I've got some acorn crackers here. This morning I decided to get up and see what was in my freezer. These are acorns that I collected on Governor's Island. I cold leached them for a couple of weeks, turned them into flour. It's half acorn flour, half white flour. Honestly, I'd never made acorn flour crackers this morning, so this is like test kitchen level. You can try them. They're like all different kinds of shapes, and some are cooked harder than others. You tell me if they're good. I don't know. I also have normal bread from like the normal bread store. You can do what you want. Oh yeah, they have mugwort salt and spice bush on them, which is like a native plant that you can use like black pepper. And finally, XYZ is for examine your zip code. You know, we can all, like, if you're rich enough, shop at Whole Foods and try and have all the delightful organic food and exercise 15 times a day and drink all the water you would like. They are finding that your greatest correlation for early mortality has more to do with where you live. And of course, those things correlate to people who are black, indigenous, poor, more than anybody else. Now that I've served you this wonderful boner killer of a speech, would you like to come and eat some food? I have beer, 2 different types of mugwort beer. If you do not drink alcohol, totally fair. I have some seltzer with magnolia shrub or milkweed syrup you can put in it. I've got the cheese. You can eat any of those greens on that plate, and I can tell you about any of them. Acorn crackers and some field garlic pickles. And I think that's it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have, thank you so much, Candace, a really special pause moment. We're gonna set some lights. You can stretch and pee. You can come get yourself a foraged poisonous drink or snack. No more poisonous than what you already get from the grocery store. We're gonna move the mealworm installation to the side for the next performances, but that means that you can come spend time with the mealworms and listen to them turning styrofoam into dirt. You can get up close and personal with the reveal of Rot Camera, which is hanging in the back, a project by Basie Allen and Cassandra Mayela, who spent the first event here assembling this incredible piece, wrapping found metal into fabrics that they then submerged on an island off of Queens. And it's been there in the sea, like having the sea imprint these poems and traces and images, text on textiles. So listen to some mealworm poems, look at some rust poems, taste some poisonous delights, and we're gonna set the lights and get ready for Precious and Poncili, who are both like geniuses of dirt, and that will be our evening. So we'll just hang for a moment. Come poke around.
No, it doesn't. If you would have the before, that would be good. Yeah, so the one here is field garlic oil, so think about like
lovely appreciators of dirt, dirty, dirty people. It is time for you to now take your libations and return to your seats. We will hear some poems before a potential downpour, although we sit and we pray to the gods that they will wait. So when I began to put together this evening, I knew that Precious Okioman had to be a part of this because they are a true connoisseur of dirt and decomposition, a poet, an artist, a chef, a thinker, a feeler. Just before lockdown, Precious opened an installation, an environment made of imported kudzu, the vine that ate the South, brought to the U.S. in an attempt to stop soil erosion caused by the exploitation of the land from growing and harvesting cotton by enslaved people in the South. This was a so-called invasive that devoured the South. And then as the world shut down, the exhibit remained, and these kudzu vines that Precious had brought across state lines grew, and they created lush and haunting forms. And more recently, right nearby at PSNY, the ash of these plants formed a new environment, falling continuously in gentle swirls, kind of like the rain on top of a landscape of dirt mounds and stone towers. A river ran through it, and when I went, small seedlings were beginning to grow from this world that Precious made, and I hung out for a long time with some very cute ladybugs. Ladybugs, they liked being in the gallery. So Precious also troubles this boundary between native and invasive, like the items that you're now eating and putting in your own body and troubling the boundary of your own body. We started by smelling dirt, then we listened to dirt being made, then we tasted dirt running through us, and now I'm so excited that Precious is here, and perhaps we can feel some dirt wherever that goes. Let's give a warm welcome, please, to Precious.
Hi, everybody. I kind of like that it's raining. It's like getting spit on by God or something. I'm going to read you some poems. The animal that is most vulnerable is usually the most cruel. It is impossible to separate it from what it remembers. Sun beats, wind leaps, blood memory, apocalyptic self-image, crystallized affections of pious solace, emptiness from this ceaseless war. I want to sin against purity, bliss hovering above the void, haptic fallout, feverish blood. Sun beats down, wind leaps, blood memory, cheerful, obscene boredom. Angel of the sun, singing with a hard fist, life's benevolent corruption. Everything is hard against the tongue, everything dissolving into otherworldly paradise. Make heaven my home. I never learned my lesson. Weather report. Today I wake up, still the assemblage of associated distortions bewilder me. In this world, I am a shapeshifter, fragmented body perceptions as higher vibration frequencies to God. In the supernatural sky, I was restful as I'd reach my place of salvation. The surface as material structure, neither heaven nor solace, only wind, only quenched light, lulled into covering until everything was the same soul object, well-formed, in the irreducible, always already truth, hidden in the trees. It is nothing. I am still here. Desire dissolves away. Ah! I drink gulps of light, putting myself back together. The rain pushes all the glyphosate and polyacidric hydrocarbons down into the ground. The industrial operation rehearses suffering. It moves the world with terrible momentum. Shift me into dimensional alienation. construct an object already weaponized within. The surface is the loss of what is already missing within. I look up at the sky, bathed in pink, liberated, longing for a liberated psyche I could rinse of any meaning into no form or shape. Like the world is dying, in flames, like rapacious gloom in the empire's burning afterlife, like looking out the window, a hollow flower, like falling into the wind, like falling into heavy air, like falling into limitless love, made into that air, made into that membrane of that real high shit. Pathogenic pleasure. Like, we gotta make a new world, like fade up, reform, resound, open association, reframe. Like in the surprising sun, I am blossoming somewhere, blown away into the paradox of smiling. So I wrote these long kind of prayer things for people I love called sky songs. And this one is for my friend Fred. Somewhere I read you long to dispossess yourself of yourself, slowly adjust to the suffering in this shit again. The other day I was watching the sky drowning in blue as I laid in the grass. I shouted a Dumas poem to the sky. Take up the blood from the grass, sun, take it up. These people do not thirst for it. Take up the insect children that play in the grass, sun. Take them away. These people are sick of them. Take down the long, slender reeds, sun. Cut them down. These people cannot make flutes any longer. Now, sun, come closer to the earth, even closer than that. Closer. Now, sun, take away the shape from the metal, sun. These people are like stone. Now make them lava. I like there to be a space between us, but also a crushing, a pounding, the fullness of this articulation. I mean, no, but yes, but motherfuckers are always asking too many questions. The dispossession of that individuality held and that already given into the unconscious, the having given itself away, it never really was. What if it's not about putting shit together, but how shit falls apart? Shit. Open that void wide up. Eating ass for breakfast, I keep getting off. Open up, get in, lick it up. Shit slinger, master cleanse, silly boy, silly faggot, fuck the sun, son fucker. The rationality of this decolonization, the brutalizing interplay of centrality and reconstricted motion, reform, fade up, a dark empty room lit by only evening light, a window set high against a brick wall, no color, no percussion, footsteps, the only sound. Don't cry, baby. Dry your pretty eyes and smile at me. It's space-time itself. Ever since I woke up this morning, I've had so many horrible thoughts about people on who I agree 99% of what they say and who I share 99% of their desires. I've lost count. That's really bad. I'm really trying to work on that. I'm really trying to work on being a better person, but I can't do it by myself or in my head or in the interpersonal diorama. Maybe you can't separate it. It's inside and outside and non-externalizable, a war of our own devices, Correlative images wash into view. We comically fall off a cliff, coming into everyday life. Now double that into outer space, the performative enactment of our always already being, singing Hosanna in the ear of anarchist bliss, furiously falling into love, waterfalls, mysterious, mischievous end, always love. The other day, lying in the green, watching the everyday sky go from pitch to dim violet to pink, it settles. This is my last poem. Black Angel, body and wake. When I got here, it was raining. The sun had hid itself for the terror of itself. Everyone could tell what was coming. The flowers of blood with carefully extended hands, dreams of tepid fire, sun. Black angel, blood earth, angel sun. The earth is a black diamond. It requires blood, trembling ground. Thank you.
Thank you, Precious. Woo! amazing artistry we're seeing tonight, collaborating with all the elements. Thank you so much. We have something really, really special coming, and I'm not going to waste any time really introducing artist Poncili Creacion in town all the way from San Juan, who make visual poems out of salvaged materials, couch stuffing from the existential playground of the urban landscape. And for the first time, they're collaborating with the brilliant Juan del Hierro, who happens to be their father. So this is a very historic event. He hasn't been back to the city in 28 years. But the last time he was here, he did a dance in St. Mark's Church. And when he returned, he felt the spirits of the space and began to dance the same choreography he remembered from 30 years ago. So this is a very haunted situation that we're dealing with. And I'm so excited to share with you tonight. If it rains, it rains. This is the ritual closing of Rot Talks. And, you know, we can't battle with Mother Earth. So please, everybody, give the warmest welcome you can muster to Poncili Creacion. Concili Creación, everyone.
Yeah.
This show doesn't stop. There are no boundaries to this show. Now it's just out there. Thank you all so much for being here. This has been Rot Talks.
Yeah.
Thank you to the church. Thank you to the Poetry Project. Thank you to Narendra and Candace and Precious and Concili Creación with their father Juan del Hierro, who've been working the past week to bring us this dirt poem masterpiece. To the musicians Chris, Kevin, and Paco, and to all of you for being here. Thank you so much. I'm Alex. Nice to meet you.
Dirt's got food for plants to eat that you don't need.